Okay, so last video I was just doing a free stream of consciousness, and I ended up actually just summarizing my entire program. So that video was an hour. So I wanted to see how quickly I can explain my whole program while trying to stay as focused as I can. So take one, right? This is the four quadrants of success, and this is the foundation of what is going to be my program, which is the Enlightened Mastery School of Self Coaching. So, the super quick history is that I am a life coach. I chose that because I was struggling so hard with ADHD and being productive and being successful in actually like making money in life, right? So I got really frustrated and tired. So I went into life coaching, and of course, I'm a life coach, right? Which means I life coach myself. And then the huge aha that occurred to me was what I need to do is awaken the self coach in others so that they can coach themselves to anywhere they want to go and to avoid, overcome, and incorporate the hurdles along the way. So, this is what has come up with after years and years of thinking about this and summarizing and summarizing. So, this is the four quadrants of success. So, let me try to explain this as quickly but as concisely as possible. What is success? Okay, well, let me just draw out the four, and I'm going to do this all live as quickly as I can. So, this is the four quadrants of success, and my goal is to be as practical as I can. So, for this four quadrant, the upper right quadrant is going to be our goals. Okay? You can choose whatever goal you want. That is the part where the life coach will not tell you what to do, but just give you the frameworks for how to achieve any success you want. First, you have to have a goal. For me, the highest goal for this program is after somebody goes through my program, myself starting first, so I'm looking to achieve this state. If you do not know about flow states, I highly suggest looking up videos about flow states, which is pretty much when an athlete is like completely at their top game, like world class. They're just completely in the moment, flowing, and all the actions seem like they're just the right actions. And time just disappears, and it's effortless action, right? So the goal is to get to a state. It's not gonna be instantly overnight. Of course, this is not an overnight program, but I like to think of it as the shortest long path. Right? This is not a shortcut. This is the basic of everything that we have to do. All right, and I'll go into that in just a little bit. So the goal is to get into this flow state. So I'm talking to myself. This is kind of the frame of this whole video. I'm just telling myself and reminding myself this is my goal. All right, so I'm using all these tools for myself because I'm a life coach, so I life coach myself, and now I want to teach others how to life coach themselves as well to be a self coach. Okay, so the goal is flow state. This is the optimal state, and this is where our difficulty of a task matches our skill level. So if the skill level, okay, so if this line is difficulty, right? So the higher the difficulty, this is the overwhelm. If it's too difficult and our skill level is too low, like I need to learn to drive a fire truck and I don't know how to drive a fire truck, I'm going to be overwhelmed. However, if a skill level is really low, difficulty is very low, but our skill is really high, like, I don't know, laundry, we're going to get bored, right? So this is boredom. Bored. The ideal flow line is right there, right in the middle, where we're fully engaged, where we're just at the edge of our skill limit, not too far, not too little. And so this channel is got the flow channel. So that is the goal, to be able to up the percentage of flow in our everyday life. And the definition of flow is effortless peak performance. Let's make this a little smaller. Effortless peak performance. Seems pretty simple, right? If you want to be a world-class tennis player, we need to learn how to play the penis. We need to learn how to play tennis and then just keep getting into the flow and getting into deep practice. But that's more for later. So we need to have a goal, right? For success, of course, we need a goal. So that's the upper right is where we put our goals. And if you are not very clear about your goals, that's part of what a life coach would help you with too, is to help you clarify what those goals are. A life coach does not tell you which goals to take. If you ask them, they'll give you some suggestions, right? They've heard quite a few. Anyways, but ideally, one second, they do not tell you what to go after, simply tell you the structure of how to get there. All right, so let's say for me, I want to get to $100,000 in income as a career. I love doing this. I want to be helping people doing this. All right, so my goal is $100,000. That's literally my goal. Okay. To do that, I need to face my shadows of money and sales and those kind of things, but that is for later. This is simply stating a goal that is realistic, yet stretches me just enough, right? So this is about a stretch goal, and to get to goals, we have to take the right steps, right? So if this is B, well, to get to B, guess where do you need to start? Point A. So lower right is where we are at. And the important part is to be radically honest, not brutally honest, radically and lovingly honest with where we are. For me, I finally acknowledged that I'm a pretty decent life coach, but I am not really good at sales or money. So they are two separate tasks. So to be honest with myself, I'm not really all that good with money. I have a shadow around asking for it, as many of us do. Okay? So that is me being radically honest with where I am at. Okay, so this is A. This is all the status of where we are at. So this is this whole quadrant here. Okay, what about the other two quadrants? Well, in order to get to an effortless peak state, we need to know what we're doing. We need to know what these steps are. And it can be completely overwhelming to just like say, hey, I want to build a business. There is a tremendous amount of steps in between. So how do we process that? What's the framework to help us get a little closer? Well, here is what I found. There's two steps. So this quadrant is the foundation. This is our foundation, and there's two parts. Okay? There is simply the tasks that we have to do each and every day. These are our routines. Now, for many of us, I'm trying to include myself as a high achiever, right? For for many of us who are very high achieving, we may have already locked down our daily habits. But remember, I come from an ADHD anxiety background, so I part of me really struggles with routines and like seeing them as necessary. But they are, right? There's no way around that. That's part of what I've come to is that if I want certain results, let's say here is the results I want. I want a healthy body. I want healthy teeth, dental hygiene, right? What do I need to do? I need to brush my teeth every day. Ideally twice a day, but at least once a day, right? So these are the tasks that I have to do. Well, for things like laundry, I have to do laundry. Like, there's no way around it. Let's not worry about, do we have to do laundry? Yes, we do. What I do have a choice is what time I do it, but not if I do it, right? So once I've given up on struggling whether or not I need to do it, I let go of that. I build a routine. So this is my morning routine. I wrote it down so that sometimes when I get distracted, and it's a little hard to, there we go, right? Sometimes when I get distracted, I can just look back on the sheets like, okay, where was I? I can look down the checklist and see what I've done, what I haven't done, and get on top of that. Because my background is ADHD, my brain goes all over the place. So this helps me not be able to think, or not need to think, because I've already thought it out. I built my routine consciously. I have to shave every morning, so I wake up and do that quickly. I have to brush my teeth, get dressed. Those are all things that I have to do, so I don't think about them anymore. So I free up that mental space every morning, and I make a commitment to myself. I'm just going to do this. And the goal here, right, is to get into flow state since I have to do them anyways. Why not just kind of relax into it? Why not just kind of literally almost mindlessly go through the motions like a tennis player would go through the motions of practice? The 50th thousandth time that a world-class tennis player hits the ball, it's not the first time, right? So they don't have to think about it. They just do it. They just relax into it, and they make it better each and every single time, right? So to approach our daily routines as a meditative practice, as practice to get into flow. Remember, flow is the goal. Oh, that's a good one. A little tacky, but flow's the goal. Flow's the goal. Oh, I like that one. I'm gonna see. I think of these things come out as I keep talking about them. Is the goal. Flow is the goal. Flow is the goal. Right? That's a good reminder. Mantra. Maybe mantra. Okay. So the flow is the goal. So, and because I embrace that, these activities are not optional. No, I cannot brush my teeth maybe a day or two, but after that, the cost is going to start accumulating. This is in reality. There's no way around logical consequences of living in a body in a physical world. All right. So these activities, should we want the goal, is not optional. What is optional, however, this is super important. What is optional is the story we tell ourselves about why we are doing this. So, take laundry, for instance. For most people, they may do laundry as a chore. It's like, oh, it's so hard, but I have to do it. All right, so I'll muster up the willpower to do it. But afterwards, when I do that, I get drained. It's like, oh, I'm so tired, but at least I did it. That's one way to do it. Again, reality doesn't care how you feel or what story you do while you do the task, as long as you do it. Just like an employer doesn't really, oh, never mind. Employer doesn't care. As long as you do the job, right? How you feel about doing the job, that's up to you. what if we take on the story, the meaning? We can change the meaning. That's an important part. What if we are a superhero washing our cape? How different would that story be of that activity of laundry? Now it's like, ooh, it's part of saving the world. It's part of my job of to wash my cape. Like even Superman needs to wash his cape, right? It's like that kind of play. It's a play. It does, again, as long as you do the task, it doesn't matter what you feel or think while you're doing it. So as long as I'm brushing my teeth, I am Superman brushing my teeth. I am a superhero washing my cape, right? This keeps the goal in mind while I'm doing it. It is built in. And I drew this part. This symbol is starting to be the main symbol for my life. And this is the idea that the journey is the destination. Which means, okay, I'm not gonna go into that yet. I'll do that in just a little bit. Okay, so if we want health, the tasks are not optional. What is optional is the story we tell ourselves and the meaning we make. We can change it. We don't need to stick with the default. I'm giving you permission to change it, whatever you want. If you want it to be a fantasy theme, I'm Harry Potter, doing a mouth cleaning spell. Great. If you want a sci-fi theme, like I am a mech suit doing suit maintenance, that is one playful story. So this is the story. Let's do either story or meaning. So story, meaning, story, meaning, story. This is the story we tell ourselves. All right. So those are just the actions. This is how we get our emotions to be able to do the boring things that we need to do every single day. And the better our habits, because remember, we do this every single day. So the better we design our habits, look in the book Atomic Habits for tips, right? The benefits compound day after day after day. That is the power. That's why we kind of start here, but we also start in the goals, and we also be clear with where we are. So anyways, life coach is to hold people to the structure to get them to know their goals, to start really being honest with themselves of where they are, and to realize that we're not actually as good as we think we are yet. And then to try to help the person figure out what the next steps are. How solid are their routines, our day-to-day tasks that they need to do? Now here is the other trick. What I found is that the route to becoming your best self, we're still going for our best self, is actually going downwards, right? So it's reverse. That's why most people get trapped. The trick to becoming our best self is not to focus on our best self, because that is always going to be just a little out of reach. And it's always going to be encouraging, anyways, to always reach for something and never quite get it, right? Can you see why our motivation will be demotivated? Anyways, that's a trap. To reach for our highest self is a trap. The key here is to raise our lowest self. Now imagine this. Imagine a year from now, your lowest self, on your worst day, on average, on your worst day, you are more productive than you were on your best day a year ago. That is the key. So the key is all the things that we don't want to look at. We go into our basement. What are we afraid to look at? This is our shadow. So the goal, the trick to becoming our highest self is to raise our lowest self. Now, there's a few things that I don't want to go into too much detail, right? So this is like, okay, so this is our lowest self. This is our gremlins. We need to go in there and retrain them, love them, so that they are all helping us in the same direction. It is possible. We don't have to fight ourselves. That's absolutely possible. So anyways, I'm getting tired, but I'm going to push through because I want to explain all this as quickly as possible. This is my first take at it, and I'm just talking to myself. I'm reminding myself. I'm just talking to myself. I'm not trying to do anything. Okay, so the trick to being our best self is to go into our basement and look at all the things that we don't want to look at. When people talk about spiritual bypassing, right? Like, oh, love and light only. It's not that we need to not look and embrace love and light and being our best self. No, that's still the goal. The problem is when we avoid the negative things, the problems. Okay, I had a metaphor. It's at the tip of my tongue, so if my brain wants to give me the metaphor of avoidance, it can do so, but it's just like, I had a metaphor, but now I'm just going to let my subconscious, I'm going to ask my subconscious to give me that metaphor back whenever it's ready. Okay, so the key to being our best self is to raise our lowest self. And you're not going to do this alone. I'm going to introduce to you a set of guardian beliefs. So they're going to be here, okay? They're going to keep our emotions from spiraling out of control to a darker and darker place. Emotions cannot hurt us without our cooperation. This is very important. Our emotions cannot hurt us without our cooperation. What this means is we are emotional immortals. It means as dark as an emotion gets, it cannot kill us outright, physically. As long as our body is safe. So we always got to do a safety check for our bodies. Am I sitting in a place? Is it dangerous? As long as our body is safe and taken care of, our emotions, we are emotional immortals. This is the key. This is what keeps us from not believing our emotions too deeply. The emotion is data, not directives. Data, not directives. This comes from a person I just found out about. Her name is Susan David. Her book is Emotional Agility. And this is her foundational key. Emotions are data, not directives. Plus, here's another distinction. The only main problem with emotions is in the action it compels us to do. So if we get angry and we hit somebody, not good. You know, it is our actions that get us into trouble, not our feelings or our thoughts. So as long as we know to control our actions, we can let our emotions expand as much as it wants to, as much as it needs to, without being afraid of it, without needing to push it down, because it's the actions, not the emotions themselves, that is the problem. Now, do we need to watch our actions every single moment? That's exhausting. What I found is that there's one main rule that we always have to follow, but there's kind of two other separate ones. So I call it the 3 rules. And here are the 3 rules. Do not initiate harm. Don't do it. don't initiate harm on others. Ideally, don't hurt yourself too. Don't initiate harm on yourself. You know, right? Do not initiate harm on yourself or others. That's first. That's really the main rule. Everything else is kind of optional. But the second one is a very strong guideline. Don't make it easy for others to hurt you. Right? So, not easy to hurt you. Okay? Don't make it easy for others to hurt you. This includes everything, including information security, self-defense, those kind of things. And number 3 is it's just a reminder of how important. It's a reminder for the first rule, which is don't even use the threats. No threats of harm in any variety, even scare tactics. I kind of classify that as threats-ish, but that's a gray area. But those 3 rules are the only main rules that I have found that I need to follow. So if any of my suggestions from my subconscious comes up and tells me, hey, I want to just punch that person out because I'm so angry at, whatever insult they said, that's when, the referee part of me sees that actions be like, nope, we're not punching people, we're not honking at them, we're not ramming the car while who cut us off. No. So this is the other important part. Effort is not necessary. Effort is not necessary. This is the most important breakthrough that I have had. Otherwise, I was always overwhelmed. But after realizing this, I could let go of effort. It's not necessary. Okay. What does that mean? Stop using consciousness whenever possible. The hard work, the force of will, everybody knows that it is limited. When we use our determination, when our willpower, there is such thing as willpower depletion, so that when I have resisted an urge to eat chocolate for an hour, the next temptation is just going to wear me down and I'm just going to give in to that easier. So instead of using willpower, we switch to letting our subconscious do the heavy lifting. Okay, so this is our consciousness. So instead of our consciousness is like the referee, right? So what is the role of a referee? Does the referee run around and chase the ball and put it into the goal? No. The referee just is mostly there to make sure there's no fouls, right? You're playing by the rules. Referee. Okay? So what are they refereeing? The 3 rules, the 3 R's, 3 rules. That's all the ref is checking for. You're not punching somebody. You're not doing something against the rules. Don't break the laws. Those kind of things. All right. So now you have those 3 rules in place. Your referee knows what to look for. Now you can let your players play. You can let your subconscious do most of the heavy lifting. Because our subconscious is so fast. It's so much faster than our conscious brain. So my metaphor or my explanation for what intuition or subconscious versus effort is like this. Right? Imagine these are stars or something, like this cosmic subconscious. Imagine, what was I thinking about? I lost my train of thought. That's my ADHD. So I'll come back to it. The referee referees the 3 rules, mainly so that we don't initiate harm on others. And our subconscious does the heavy lifting. So think about when we forget somebody's name, but it's like right on the tip of our tongue. Right? It's like, oh, I know that person's name. We've met before, but it's just not quite coming to me. And we try and try with our conscious brain. We just can't force it. We can't. If it's not there, we can't force it. Right? But then 5 minutes later, or 20 minutes later, that name just pops up. Our brain's like, we've given up on it, but our subconscious is still working on the task. So as long as we put it into our subconscious and we can learn how to do that more and more effectively, and we do as much as we can with our conscious brain, but once we run out of conscious resources, we stop. And then our subconscious takes over, and our subconscious does the heavy lifting. While our consciousness can just sit back and keep an eye on things in case, an action comes up from the subconscious that says, hey, I want to punch that person. Nope. So it simply just vetoes certain requests for actions. That's it. We can sit back and relax. And as long as our subconscious is calibrated properly, it can always work for us, give us the energy. We can sit back and relax, and we can increase the percentage of time we spend in the flow state each and every single day. Okay. Is that it? There was a metaphor for what? Now I forgot what the metaphor was. Okay, well, it seems like that's not coming up for my subconscious, so I'll just leave that be. Let me double check my notes to see what else. That's pretty much the whole structure, and I set this in 30 minutes. I have condensed it in half. What else did I talk about? Flow states, I talked about that. My goal is to be the world's best life coach in the same way that I want to be like the world's best dad. That's what people say. It's the same kind of feeling. It's just like, oh, the world's best dad. Like, of course, like, nobody argues that. It's like, no, you're not the best. Here's the world's best dad competition. It's like, no. The whole idea is just the feel-good goal to move towards. Gremlins, lowest self, guardian beliefs. There's a few more, but I'm not going to go into too much to that. Like, one is like time, there's only now. There's a few more that I've pulled from the biggest religions teachings in the world. And the 3 rules is definitely one of them too. Like, do not initiate harm. That's every major religion. They talk about that. So that's a good one to follow. So that is basically it. Oh, there's also the 4 main emotions, but so we're gonna learn what the emotions are. They are data, not directives. I used the metaphor of a car. You should not let you should not let toddlers drive the car, but you shouldn't shove them in the trunk either. That's the best metaphor that I've ever heard. Forgot where I learned it from, right? But that's how to deal with emotions. But I also like to think of emotions like teenagers learning how to drive. If they're going all over the place, they're going too fast and too aggressive, you take away the keys, You take away the keys until they've earned the right to get back in the driver's seat. And then you slowly give them back the keys while you have supervision until they've proven to you that they can drive safely. Then you can give them back the keys and you can sit back, and our consciousness can just kind of be, supervising, but we don't have to use effort as much when our teenagers can learn to drive. Now, okay, right? So who are our 4 biggest teenagers inside us? So there's 4. And this correlates with imagining, like, every living creature needs these 4 things. One is, imagine a living creature. They need to go straight forward for food. Imagine like a scrappy little wild dog in nature. You're going towards food. That's an emotion of compulsion, of hunger. Things that are moving you towards the goals you want. Most people call this happiness. I think of this synonymously with compulsion. These are emotions moving us forward. When we don't have a full control of them, this is where addictions happen. This is where I watch too many TV shows because I want to escape the bad feelings. Avoidance, of course, is like the kind of the super overarching problem that everybody talks about. Avoidance. Avoid. Okay? Avoidance. So happiness is one of the teenagers that just wants to get all the candies and all the good feelings and just stay there. But you can't get to the level of success by just laying in bed and watching TV all day, right? So that's the happiness. That's one teenager. Another teenager is just raging, right? Just really angry. Imagine you're a wild dog and this other creature is trying to fight you and annoy you. Anger is a natural response that every living creature needs to defend its own life and boundaries and to take on threats. So anger is about destroy. This other, creature is a threat to me. I think I can take it on. I will attack it and eliminate a threat, right? If there's a lion or if there's a bear that is known to be aggressive and has killed people, and that bear is in my backyard, I'm going to help eliminate the threat. So that's anger. It's like, oh, okay. Fear, I think most people are aware. Fear is about the fear teenager. Her whole job is to look in the future and avoid the potholes. The problem is when she's too good at her job. I know, gender. When fear is too good at her job, she tells everybody of this giant pothole that hasn't even come up yet. We can avoid it, but she tells the story of warning so convincingly that we believe that we are already in the pothole. Alright? So that's the problem of being too much in fear, is that we don't see the actions we could take to avoid it, and then we get into a negative loop of emotions that often create the very fear scenario that fear was trying to avoid. So there's a way to master that. I'm not going to go in that right now, but it is possible to completely master our emotions. Okay, happiness, anger, fear, and sadness. So sadness, every organism needs this as well. If an organism got hurt, it needs to stop and heal. It can't just keep running like normal and keep aggravating the wound, which is going to make it worse, right? So sadness means to stop. I've lost something. I need to honor what that loss is. I need to readjust my plans. When we don't do this, people call that denial. Like, oh, I lost my house or whatever in a storm, and I just emotionally don't want to accept that. I keep charging forward like nothing happened. That's denial. When we can't access sadness, that is partly what happens. When we're afraid of sadness, fear, or anger, or compulsion. So these are the 4 teenagers inside us that we want to teach them how to drive the car, because they want our best well-being. Fear wants us to really desperately avoid the potholes that will literally crash the whole car. Anger wants to charge us, give us extra energy to push through obstacles, but don't have that obstacle be a person. Whatever you do, do not point anger at a person. Maybe at the actions that they do. Be like, hey, I don't like this action. Can you please not do that? Don't point anger at a person, because that anger targets something. Whatever you put anger on is designated for destruction. We can use that for good by saying, hey, I want this goal, and any obstacle that gets in the way, I want to destroy it, unless it's the person, and then I'll go around it, Okay, so anger is also the fuel for motivation That's why when we're locked from accessing our anger, we have blocked a lot of our determination as well. Happiness, compulsion, addiction, I think you understand the traps of that, but at the same time, when we're not in touch with what we want, we are not in touch with our goals, and we can't align our entire life as well. And that's super important, because as long as we're not on the path of becoming world class at one or two, like probably one thing, we have to pick one. To be a world class tennis player, you have to let go of everything else. So what is the one thing you want to be world class at if you want to be world class success? So mastering these 4 emotions is going to be the key of this quadrant. This quadrant is all about stability. This is about stabilizing our emotions. And the bottom is about stabilizing our actions. So this is... Oh, that's terrible. Oh, come on. Emotions. These are actions. Stabilize our actions. Have atomic routines. Stabilize our emotions so that we can actually get our emotions on board, so that we can get to our goal. Because all we really need to do is do the steps. These steps are not easy though. So how do we get the emotions on board to keep us on the path, to keep the momentum, motivation going, to get back on the hill day after day after day? This is a many year long marathon. So if you don't have intrinsic motivation, you're just not going to get there. All right? And we have to be able to embrace the heavy emotions. And I will talk more about that another time, but we have guardian beliefs that keeps us from spiraling. The first step is to make sure our body is safe, secure, like in a safe location, a warm house, whatever. Then we can dive into as deep of emotion as we need to. Always keeping in mind that we are emotional immortals. Nothing here can harm us without our cooperation. And what that means is cooperation means action. If I feel compulsion to eat chocolate and I eat all the chocolate, it is the act of eating the chocolate that harms us, not the compulsion that leads us to take the action. That's why we need to lock down action. We need to be the puppeteer. And I have techniques for doing that as well, but I don't have time to explain that. This is 42 minutes. It's already pretty long, but I'm still pretty happy to explain this whole process of the 4 quadrants of success. All right, I hope that has helped. I love you all. This is pretty much the backbone of everything I'll be teaching. And the goal of a life coach is not to tell you which goal to go after, but to simply ask you, hey, what's your goal? You can pick any goal in the world, and I'll help you get there. I'll help you break through any obstacles. I'll help you stay on track and accountable to taking the actions. And the best life coaches do not do this from fear, blame, or shame. We celebrate and cheer. We are cheerleaders only. So every time you make a step, we cheer the heck out of you. We will give... Anyways, that is our main tool. We have nothing else. We ask questions and we cheer you on until you are successful. We keep reminding you that you're a success, and all you have to do is just take the next step. So, stay tuned. This is the Enlightened Mastery School of Self-Coaching. I have a better tagline of like, reach your highest self by raising your lowest self, or something fancy tagline like that, you know, for marketing purposes and sales. La-di-da. Okay. Anyways, I'm pretty proud of myself for having this framework, and this is it. This is all there is. Okay. Love you all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.